I bought myself a globe for 15,000 just for that, a beautiful big one, so I could see exactly where Greenland is, and that missile would fly from Russia to the White House in 26 minutes.
As the Greenland dispute escalates inside NATO, Czech Prime Minister Andrej Babiš has weighed in on the controversial issue. Babiš, a Trump supporter in Europe, said he cannot clearly state that the Czech Republic stands behind Greenland in the dispute, stressing instead that the issue must be resolved within NATO, warning that confrontations inside the alliance would be counterproductive. The Czech leader said his country favors dialogue and agreement among allies rather than political clashes that could weaken NATO at a time of rising global tensions. But Babiš also addressed the security dimension of the Greenland debate, and that's where his remarks took a sharper turn. He referenced Russia's supersonic ballistic missile Oreshnik, saying its projected flight path toward the United States would pass directly over Greenland.
Good afternoon, Zdislava Pokorná from Deník N. I'd like to ask if you can unequivocally state on behalf of the government that we stand with Grónsko, and whether we will join the statement of the 8 leaders that we stand with Grónsko, because you haven't actually said this clearly even once during the entire time this issue has been discussed. So that's question number 1, and I have 3 more, so feel free to answer.
I simply cannot say that. Why should I say it? We recognize that within NATO, the United States acts as the primary leader, and these kinds of clashes are highly counterproductive to our interests, so we truly need to return to a path of constructive dialogue.
Sure, but we're talking about the strongest member of NATO who wants to take over the territory of its ally. So do you think that's okay? Maybe they just want
to buy it. They've already tried to buy it 5 times, as I read in an article in Mlada. I bought myself a globe for 15,000 just for that, a beautiful big one, so I could see exactly where Greenland is, and that missile would fly from Russia to the White House in 26 minutes. And the 11th minute of the flight is right over Greenland. So President Trump's arguments about China and Russia are relevant, but in the end, it's necessary to reach a lasting agreement, and any calls or declarations are ultimately pointless.
Can I also, just one thing about this before I leave? You know, this is exactly what Czech diplomacy looked like under the previous government. Everything was handled in a very simple and remarkably quick way. So it was just said, we stand with Greenland, period, and we would not deal with the matter any further, because we supposedly took a side. But we believe that, on the contrary, it is absolutely necessary to have discussions. That means not turning the alliance and our allies into different camps, not dividing things up, but rather trying to bring people together in a unified way. So I have engaged in discussions with both the American side and the Danish side, and I also have a meeting currently scheduled to take place with the Danish Minister of Foreign Affairs. And really, this kind of Twitter diplomacy, which the previous government frequently demonstrated a tendency to favor, is something we simply do not want to do, because the result, or rather the ultimate goal of diplomacy, should not be that someone writes a brief single sentence on social media and then feels like their job is done. I think these matters are significantly more complicated and certainly can't be invented or resolved with a single simple press release.
He added that understanding this geography helped him see why Greenland holds such strategic importance and why US President Donald Trump views the island as critical to American security. Babiš later addressed online jokes after it emerged he had purchased a globe costing 15,000 Czech crowns, or roughly $720 amid the Greenland debate.
Once again, I'm providing entertainment for some people on social media, and some are mocking and laughing at me because they have a completely different way of thinking than I do. This is a map of the world. Here you can see Greenland, right? And its size does not actually correspond at all to reality. That is exactly why I decided to purchase this truly beautiful globe, okay? And right here, you can actually see the real geographical proportions of Greenland, for example, especially when compared to the United States or even to Europe. And here we can very clearly see how close, you can see it in 3 dimensions right here, Russia actually is. And if, God forbid, some kind of conflict were to break out, you can see how a missile would fly over the top of the world, and it would not take very long at all. And the United States has had a long-standing interest in Greenland. This isn't just some recent initiative by Donald Trump. There have been numerous attempts in the past. I talked about it in a previous video. And of course, Greenland belongs to Denmark. And Denmark and the United States are, after all, allies within NATO. So we have to negotiate. Some calls to action and certain measures are not good. We need to find a way to resolve this matter through diplomatic means and normal communication. Hopefully it will all turn out well. Donald Trump is in Davos, and the head of NATO, Mark Rutte, will be there too. We have an extraordinary council meeting on Thursday, so I hope that once again things will work out and the allies will come to an agreement.
In a video posted online, Babiš explained that flat, paper maps distort reality, making Greenland appear much larger than it is, while masking how close Russia actually sits to the Arctic region. These remarks come as President Donald Trump has reignited controversy by saying the United States would discuss acquiring Greenland at this week's World Economic Forum in Davos, arguing that Denmark cannot adequately protect the territory.
No, I don't care about the Nobel Prize. First of all, a very fine woman felt that I deserved it and really wanted me to have the Nobel Prize, and I appreciate that. If anybody thinks that Norway doesn't control the Nobel Prize, they're just kidding. They have a board, but it's controlled by Norway, and I don't care what Norway says. But I really don't care about that. What I care about is saving lives, and I think I've saved tens of millions of lives. If you look at India, Pakistan, just as won 2 nuclear powers, you look at so many of the countries that were in in some cases, a 35-year war, and they got it done. We stopped 8 wars, and maybe we'll be stopping a 9th very soon. We'll see.
What do you plan to say to European leaders in Davos when they push back on your Greenland plan?
Well, I don't think they're going to push back too much. Look, we have to have it. They have to have this done. They can protect it. Denmark, they're wonderful people. And I know the leaders are very good people, but they don't even go there. And, you know, because the boat went there 500 years ago and then left, that doesn't give you title to property. So we'll be talking about it with the various people. We've had tremendous success, and I've done more for NATO than anybody else. I don't think you'd have NATO right now. I got them to go 5% and pay as opposed to 2% and not pay. I've done more than any other American president for NATO by far. And we'll see how that goes. But Greenland is very important.
Have you invited President Putin to be a member of the Board of Peace?
Yeah, he's been invited.
Do you have any response to President Macron saying he will not join the Board of Peace?
Oh, did he say that? Well,
Yeah.
Nobody wants him because he's going to be out of office very soon. So, that's all right. What I'll do is if they feel like Costo, I'll put a 200% tariff on his wines and champagnes, and he'll join. But he doesn't have to join. If he said that, you're probably giving it to me a little bit differently. But if he actually did say that, but as you know, he's going to be out of office in a few months.
Did you invite President Putin to join the...
Yes, he's one of the people, these are world leaders, and the answer is yes.
You said securing the Arctic from Russian threats is important to you. Why are you upset about NATO allies thinking that, more seriously in Greenland by holding military exercises?
Well, that wasn't a military. They sent a few people. And they say they sent them not for me, but to guard against Russia. But, NATO's been warning Denmark for about 20 years now, longer than that, 25 years. They've been warning Denmark about the Russian threat. And it's not only Russia, it's also China. So we'll see what happens. But let's put it this way. It's going to be a very interesting Davos.